if you've been called to the Finland Helsinki mission, which is heaven on earth. Missionaries have been in Finland since the beginning of the church, but the current mission was established in 1947, so after the war. So that's almost 70 years now that the church has been a presence in Finland. I believe there are still 30 boards and branches in Finland, as far south as Helsinki, the capital city, and then as far north as the branch in Rovaniemi, which is on the Arctic Circle. And that's probably about as far north as you'll go. When I was a missionary, we had enough missionaries for one companionship per unit of the church. That's not the case anymore with the increase in mission numbers. So you'll have a lot more missionaries than I ever served with. But there are 2 stakes, one centered in Helsinki, one centered in Tampere, 2 districts, one centered in Jakobstad, and the other centered in Oulu. And then there are 3 mission branches in Kuopio, Savonlinna, and Joensuu. And those are administrated directly by the mission president with no district council or anything like that. Since the mission started in 1947, most of the members of the church from the early days of the church actually moved to America. So most of the members currently in Finland are like 3rd generation members. There's one family in Jakobstad that has 5 generations of the church. So the church is established in Finland, but it's also young in a way. You don't, the history of the church in Finland, of the modern church, only goes back to 1947. The cool thing about Finland and the Finnish saints is that they love history. So every branch you serve in, you'll be able to find some books that the church members have written or have had written about church history in Finland. So if you're interested to learn more about that, you can probably find a book about it in your building library in whatever branch you serve in or ward, which I think is pretty awesome. And it'll really help you have an appreciation for, like if you're ever getting down because you're not finding a lot of people to teach or you feel like no one wants to listen to you, to be able to read about the heritage of the church in Finland in the latter days is really, really special. The Finnish people have a really great spiritual heritage that they don't always live up to nowadays, but they still have it. And so, I don't know, learning about the history of the church in Finland really helped me grow to appreciate the people I was serving, both in the church, but also the Finnish people in the nation. I really loved it. So Finland is very homogenous. Like the Finnish people are very much the same, but since it's an EU country, it's a popular destination for like refugees and immigrants of that regard. So as we move further and further into the future, Finland is becoming more and more culturally diverse, which it wasn't for a long time. So you'll meet a lot of refugees who don't speak English or Finnish, but they will let you in and you can try and talk with them. You know, they're very nice. And, you know, don't ignore those people, because like the Lord prepares whoever he wants to hear the gospel. And if you are the person that is supposed to teach that person the gospel, there will be a way to do it. So you don't, it's kind of like treat each person you meet who isn't Finnish like on a case-by-case basis. If they're responsive to your message and you can communicate with them and they're keeping commitments, great. You know, if you can't talk to them at all, try and find maybe some church material in their language, drop it off, they'll receive it happily, and hopefully you can find a way to help teach them, even if you can't communicate verbally. I don't know that I ever found a way to do that, but like I said, if it's meant to be, the Lord will make it happen. So don't give up. You are there to gather the elect, and those elect people might be Finnish, they might be Vietnamese, they might be Somalian. You don't know. You just need to remember that God loves all his children, and you've been called to serve his children that live in Finland, whether or not they're Finnish. So that's a good thing to remember.
First off, when I received my mission call, suddenly there's people in my life. One of my relatives, I had no idea went to Finland. You just find, obviously when you get a mission call, you find out other people had gone there you'd never heard of or really knew very well. And one thing that I was constantly told was that missionary work is hard in Finland, that it's a hard language, it's cold, and that you probably aren't going to find anyone that wants to, keep the commandments and follow Heavenly Father Jesus Christ's plan to be baptized. And so that was, for some people on my mission specifically, that was something like people have these expectations already set for them. And as a new missionary, you want to break those expectations, and you want to, that there's people out there that are going to accept the gospel. But I'm sure, you receiving your mission call probably, maybe you've had some people say that it's hard work, and probably people have said you're not going to baptize anybody or find anyone that's interested. And so I can tell you right now that's not true. That's not true at all. Specifically in the Finnish mission, the missionaries, I honestly don't know any disobedient missionaries. It is very obedient, very loving, very extremely. I know all missions are like this. I have only served in one mission, but all I know is that the Spirit is so strong and the love for the people is so great. Specifically with my mission president, President Rawlings, who's not there anymore. I think it's President Watson. I can't remember the name of the individual, but he just got there this summer. But the languages that we were speaking in Finland is obviously the first language that we learn is a language of the Spirit, and the second language is the language of love, and the third language is the Finnish language. Those are the only languages we speak in Finland, is what we're taught. And so it's as missionaries have immersed ourselves in that attitude of knowing that we're here to help other people, and we're here to not only spread the word but help people incorporate it into their lives. We find hundreds of people that are just prepared and ready to receive the gospel. And sometimes it's harder because Finns might be a little stuck in their ways or antisocial or something. But through the Spirit, you're able to open that up to them. And so you will find many people as long as you are doing those things, as long as you are speaking with the Spirit, instead of just speaking the language, which you will learn. For mission, I had people tell me all the time, and I came to the mission field, and they're totally not that at all. You find many individuals that are just wanting the gospel so bad, and others individuals that aren't wanting it, but end up finding out it's something they need and want, and then they accept it. But as far as statistics or those kind of things, like in Finland, there's about 5,000 members of the church. It has a very high activity rate compared to other parts of the world. Finns are very dedicated, honest, trustworthy, and when they make a commitment, they stick to it. And so it's just very strong wards and branches. Currently, there are two stakes. It's the Helsinki stake and the Tampere stake. And then there are 3 districts. There's a mission district and then 2 other districts, which in each have 3 branches. And so, but it's spread out through the whole entire country because your mission is going to be the entire country of Finland. The highest you'll go is a place called Rovaniemi, which is just right above the Arctic Circle. Oh, I think it's just below, actually. I never served there, so I don't know. But yeah, as far as those things go, the members are very strong, very willing to work with you, and they do have struggles. Like Finns in general are just to themselves, and that's why we don't really know. Like as Americans, we know a lot about Swedes, and they got was it from Sesame Street, like the Swedish Chef, like, or like, I don't know, those kind of things that you've heard of Swedish fish, you know Norway, but people don't really know about Finland, because it's just like, it's one of those places that they just like really keep to themselves. And so that's just this personality wise, you need to break that barrier with individuals in a very comfortable way, and through the Spirit, that is a perfect way to do it. And so when you break that barrier, like, Finnish members are just amazing, and they want to help and like do the work of the Lord, and they love helping the missionaries. And so you'll have a lot of things to be doing, a lot of work, and a lot of barriers to be breaking down. And so, but yeah, I think as far as it goes, and the work there, it's just it's amazing. And so, and I love it. I love it so much. And so I hope to go back there again. You have to prepare yourself. Things are very expensive in Finland. So the church obviously will help you with that. They'll make sure that you are provided, because you get a monthly amount of, I guess, it's not an income, but it's just like, they give you a certain amount of euros to be spending that month on food and supplies. Your rent is already paid for by the church, if you don't already know that. You don't have to worry about paying for it. Like, you don't have to be signing out checks or anything like that. So the only thing, you're going to give a certain amount of money. Things are expensive, and so you'll learn to be very frugal. You'll go to more of the cheaper stores. There's a German store, it's great, called Lidl. And so very cheap things, and you'll just learn how to, if you go out to eat, you will not have enough money. You'll lose all your money in 2 weeks, easy. So it's very expensive. So you learn how to do that. You learn how to cook, because you're going to have to cook unless you want to eat, I don't know, garbage. So as many skills you're going to learn. Plus, they don't have dishwashers. So they could have dishwashers. Some places do, but they do everything by hand. That's just a random thing they do there.
So Finland is predominantly Lutheran, and it's interesting. I actually did an internship there last summer as well with a biotech company, and it was interesting just to talk to them, because they were all Lutheran, but when you ask them what that means, they're like, well, I go to church for weddings and on Easter and Christmas. And like, that's the extent of most of their religious experiences, is that they're Lutheran, because it's kind of just a state religion. Most people are Lutheran. It's kind of a traditional thing, but they don't necessarily know what that means. They don't necessarily live that too often as far as like, what the tenets of their religion are. That being said, the church is growing really quickly in Finland, which is awesome. It's so great to see. Well, I think there's kind of that kind of thought, or that people talk to them, new missionaries about, that if they're going to Scandinavia or Europe in general, that you're going to work really hard and you're not going to baptize, which is completely false. Especially from my experience, there are 5 million people in Finland. We've got about 5,000 members, and but the church is growing so fast. The first year that I was there in the mission, which was like 2009, I think there were like 45 baptisms, and when I left in 2011, there were about 100 baptisms. And so, it started off a little bit slower when I first got there, but the church is growing, and people do understand. I think the temple in Helsinki is something that is really an amazing resource. There were, I think, when the temple was first dedicated in 2006, I think for the open house, there were over like 500,000 people that came to the open house, and which was just incredible. Just a lot of people came, waited in the rain to go see the temple. And I think that's just the intellectual curiosity that most Finns have. They like to learn, and they like to understand new things about new cultures and about new religions. And I think that's something that you can definitely utilize as a missionary, is their intellectual curiosity. That Finns in general don't necessarily like to talk about religion. But a lot of them are very interested in learning about why you're doing what you're doing, which is a pretty cool experience. As far as where missionaries serve, so I kind of was able to run the gambit a little bit and go all over the country. So I started off my mission in Helsinki, and then I went to the northernmost city that you serve in Rovaniemi, right next to the Arctic Circle. And that's kind of the full breadth as you go, pretty much as far south as Helsinki and as far north as just right below the Arctic Circle in a little town called Rovaniemi. And then east to west, I mean, there's quite the large experiences there as well. Where I was able to serve, I kind of, like I said, served all over the place. So I was able to serve in the west and the east, and so it's a really cool experience. And the members are great. There are two stakes in Finland, one based out of Helsinki and the other one in Tampere, and then the rest of it are just districts. So there's one district based in like kind of the west in like Vaasa and Pietarsaari in the west area there, and then there's one in the east in Kuopio, and then one up north in like the Oulu, Rovaniemi area as well.